me for hold this L.
Hold this L.
Hold this L.
What up, what up? Welcome to Hold This L with your hosts, Lonnie and Cappel. What's going on, bro?
What up, bro? What's going on with you? You doing all right this morning?
I'm doing good, man. I am doing good. How y'all holding it down in Louisiana over there?
Oh man, we can't complain. Had a nice 4th of July. The wife had to work, but I just kind of kicked back and chilled out by myself yesterday.
I feel you.
Had
I
a good
didn't
little
really.
time by myself.
That's good. I didn't really do 4th of July too much. This was not. I say too much because I didn't do nothing on the 4th, but I did grill on the 3rd. Um, put some wings on the grill, some steaks. Man, I found this great marinade. I used it the first time for Memorial Day. No, yeah, for Memorial Day, and I used it again as steak marinade. And I got this new pork chop marinade. So I marinated some pork chops and some steaks and some chicken wings, some burgers, and kind of hooked it up for me and the family, whatever. It was
Bro, you
good
making
though.
me hungry.
I mean, it's early, it's breakfast time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's always a good time to eat anyway. But nah, 4th of July was cool. Just relaxed a little bit, didn't do too much. You know what I'm saying? But anyways, we
Right,
got a
right.
lot of sports to get into. We got that. It's crazy how we can find something to talk about even without actual sports going on. The ones that we care about. I know they got sports going on across the nation. Korean baseball. They got the soccer league. I think they started the Premier League with in Europe for basketball. I might look into that because that might be something I'm interested in, just to follow or whatever. But
Right,
so they do have sports, NASCAR, PGA, but we some baseball, football, basketball guys,
right.
and those sports hadn't resumed, but it's still still a lot of content out there. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
one of the major things is this baseball season. You know, a lot of people don't follow baseball like they follow basketball and football. But baseball, it's America's pastime, and from a sports perspective, baseball was always my best sport. I mean, I love following baseball. I don't watch it as much, but I follow it. I know all the players, and so I was a little excited when they said baseball season will resume, not resume, but they will have a baseball season for the 2020 season. It's going to be 60 games. I'm like, okay, we're going to get a little bit of something. And now players is dropping like flies as far as saying they opting out, they're not going to play. Like it's just
Right.
it's the NBA was a little different. You didn't have a gang of players saying they wasn't going to play. You just have these smaller numbers right now of people who testing positive for COVID who probably still will play because they're testing so early. And then football season is up in the air. The plan is to play, but we still don't know what that's going to look like. A lot of that is going to be dependent on how, COVID spreads and how much we're able to flatten the curve and stuff like that. But as of right now, they playing. But baseball, it's supposed to be like getting going real soon, and
Right.
these players just deciding that they're not playing. So do you think the MLB season is gonna be canceled, man?
The way it's looking right now, yes, I do. It's not like, when we talk about the NBA, being canceled, even when you think about the players that were talking about opting out or not playing in the NBA, it really wasn't the big names. Like, the LeBrons, the Giannis's, the players like that. Well, in baseball, I mean, you got some big names. I mean, it's not like lower level guys coming out saying I don't want to play. It's the big guys. And to be honest with you, I think they have a lot higher risk. I mean, me and you both in our younger days played baseball, and we know the interactions that you have to have playing baseball. And I mean, it's a lot more people involved. I mean, the teams are bigger, training staffs, everything is just bigger. So many more games. I think it's just a lot that goes into baseball in particular. I'm maybe not quite have the same opinion about football. I think football can be controlled a little bit better than baseball. I think it's still a bigger job to have to do than the NBA. I think the NBA is real easy. I mean, you're talking about 15-man rosters for every team, and they're not even bringing every team. 9 of them not even going to play, and then you got players able to opt out if they want to. And I think it's easier to put them in a bubble based on the size of the players, the amount of players that they have. When it comes to baseball and football, man, I mean, it's kind of hard to put that amount of people in a bubble. I mean, if you want to create several bubbles, I could see, but I mean, it's just so much that goes into that. I don't even know if they want to entertain it.
Yeah. Me personally, I think baseball is going to resume. And the reason why is because they have such variety when it comes to options for players. They have these minor league teams that span from single A to double A to triple A. They have several people they can call up. Baseball probably has the most tools in their tool belt when it comes to player availability because they can always call people up. And if you think that these young minor league players are not going to come up simply because you know because of the virus to not have that one chance to showcase themselves when they normally wouldn't have that opportunity, I think that's just a fallacy. Like the people who are opting out for the most part, they're already established big leaguers. I think it's a lot easier for those players to say, I'm not playing. They already have millions. They're established. They can sit out these 60 games. They already having a prorated salary anyways. So for them, they're not really missing out when they're looking at, health over family is more important. And I think everybody overall feels that way, but everybody's risk is different. You look at the risk for a person who's an established millionaire playing professional baseball compared to a person who's in single A making thousands of dollars and they barely support themselves, or they support themselves just like the average American, and they got the opportunity to jump into the major leagues, and now they're gonna get some serious dough simply because the minimum salary is higher when you playing up there per whatever it is per game. They're gonna take that risk. I would take that risk. I'm not gonna lie, I would if I was in that position. And when you look at it from an owner's perspective, nothing's gonna stop them from canceling the games unless the government stops them. The government's going to have to come in and say, "Hey, we're canceling all sports. The COVID is spreading too rapidly, and as a nation, is what we're doing." But the government's not going to do that either. Um, I disagree a little bit with the spreading of the disease when it comes to baseball. I think baseball is actually the easiest disease to curtail. Now, the bubble aspect, you're right. You can't. You're not in a bubble, so that makes it a lot difficult because you're still going home and stuff like that. So, that part is true. But as far as the actual sport, that's the one sport where you don't touch each other. Like it's not physical. Basketball and football, completely physical. It's easy to spread. Like if somebody was to get infected. So from that aspect, baseball is the one sport that could probably do it with minimal spread if they were to create a bubble system. But without the bubble system, I agree, it's hard to not spread it. But the fact that you have so many players that you can call up from every level, it makes it convenient. That's the one thing it's going to make it hard for football. Are they going to expand the rosters to allow for more people to be able to play? Because you can't call up, like with baseball, yes, they're conditioning. You have to be ready to go. But at the same time, the physicality is so different. You can't call somebody up that's sitting on their couch in football and expect them to be playing right off the bat. You know what I'm saying? They need to be on the team in training camp, ready to go. So I think those factors will pretty much dictate the reason why baseball is going to continue.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you a little bit when it comes to the minor leaguers, because to be honest with you, now that I think about it, a lot of them actually got laid off. Don't even have jobs now. So to think they've been sitting out for the last couple of months, not making any income. So to think they would get called up by the MLB and say, no, I'm not going to play. I think you're absolutely right. You would be crazy to think that these guys wouldn't try to jump on an opportunity, being that a lot of them have been actually completely put out of a job lately because of things that's been going on. So no, I definitely think that does make a good point when it comes to baseball. And I kind of thought about what you were saying about, even when you're on the field, and I thought about that before I said it a little bit. When you're on the field, you're not really close. You're not touching or anything like that. But when you go to that dugout, that's more or less what I was thinking about. When you go to the dugout after you come off the field and you're on offense, that's when everybody's kind of huddled up, kind of right next to each other, kind of close to each other and stuff like that. When you're on the field, I definitely don't think it's a problem. But when you're on the offensive side, I think that's where the issues can come in.
Yeah, and that's true. And I think, you know, there's some I think there's some provisions that you can put in place, social distancing in the dugout, on the bench. I mean, these leagues are very creative. They're paying people thousands to millions of dollars to do jobs. They can figure out a way. You're not gonna have fans in the stands. You can't actually spread things out a little bit if you need extra space, because that's a legitimate concern. Baseball, just like every other sport, that's a team sport, is very physical, not just in the sport itself, but in the contact of your teammates. It's like it's like a family. You don't
Right,
stay apart from each other. You hug, you high five. I mean, there's all kinds of contact that you have with your fellow brethren or sisters. When you're playing sports, so those things naturally like would probably occur if you didn't put in provisions and then pretty much preach it as well. So I feel like they probably will have a plan for that. But at the same time, they might not. They might not have a plan for it.
right,
The plan may be, hey, we have these available players. You call them up. If you find, the plan may be, if you test positive for COVID, you quarantine for 14 days, and that's it. And we
right.
move forward with somebody that's replacing you for 14 days. I mean, who knows? But either way, that season, I feel like it's going to happen. The owners have too much money to lose. This is the only reason why any of these seasons are being talked about, is because the amount of money that they generate, and nobody wants to lose that. I heard somebody say, and this was a really poignant point, that the NFL, well, they projected how much money they would lose, the projected amount of money that they would lose from fans by signing Colin Kaepernick during the time when he was protesting and kneeling, was the main catalyst. A lot of people want to put it on racism, which there is an element of racism, one that you can't necessarily prove without somebody actually saying I'm racist. But the main thing was the bottom line, and that's the one thing that you can
Right.
prove is there's going to be something that takes money out of my pocket, out of my organization. And they never even got a chance. They didn't even take the chance, because the perceived amount of money that they would lose
Right,
was, too much for them. And that was not from TV deals. That was not from, that was simply from fans, the ticket
right,
sales.
right.
So that was a perceived amount of money. So you know exactly how much money you're going to lose if you don't have a season.
Yeah,
So you're going to have a season. Thinking from that perspective is like, yeah, the owner's going to do everything that they can to have a season. Like, they're not trying to lose money, So, like I said, the MLB will go on unless the government comes and shuts stuff down and says no sports in America at all. It is what it is, but that's just where
yeah.
we are.
You're right.
Yeah. The Lakers signing J.R. Smith. That's some big news right there. You probably can tell by the fluctuation in my voice. I was kind of mellow with the baseball, but we're talking about basketball now. Lakers signing J.R. Smith. I mean, I think that's a huge signing. Huge signing. I like the signing. I'm not super excited about it because I don't know how they're going to use him, but to have him as a tool, coming off the bench and eventually maybe starting, who knows what the Lakers' plans are. I think that's huge.
Man, I'm at a loss for words. That's how excited I am about it. I'm never at a loss for words, as you know. But needless to say, bro, I think it was a great signing. I've said it several times that him coming to the Lakers, I think is only a positive thing. First of all, we all know what happened a few years back. So in my opinion, he's going to do everything in his power to try to make up for that. That's just what I think. I think we'll see him play defense. We'll see him ball. We'll actually see him focus like we probably hadn't seen him focus in a while. Um, and replacing Avery Bradley, I honestly think it's an upgrade. And why I say that is defensively, no, he's not Avery Bradley, but he's taller, he's longer. When he puts his mind to it, he can play defense and play pretty good defense. And we all know about his scoring. J.R. Smith is somebody that can rattle off 8 3-pointers in a row on you. He can put up 25 points like that. That's something I don't think Avery Bradley, nobody would ever say about him, at any point in his career that he could just drop. 25 points on anybody. Having that along with the defense that he can, I think it's an offset. Obviously, we lose a little bit on defense, but with the big men we have in the inside with AD and all of them, I don't think we lose that much. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think we lose that much. My excitement is curtailed simply because I don't know how he's going to be used. Like if J.R. Smith had been playing the last 2 seasons, because he's literally been out for 2 seasons. He didn't play pretty much most of the season before, and he missed all of this season. I know this season's about to restart, but when you think about the time frame of an NBA season from October to July, he missed all that. So he
Right.
literally missed 2 seasons as far as time goes. And if he had been playing and then we got him, I'd have been like, okay, because we already know what he got. He's been playing. We know how he looks. But he's been off, and I think, and you have to take that into account. So they're gonna start him slow. He hadn't played in 2 years, so he has to get into the groove of the team, new team. Got to get in basketball shape, which is everybody for the most part, because people have been sitting around, they've been working out, but it's just not the same as playing basketball to get in basketball shape. So I'm curtailing my excitement because of the unknown. But I do love the signing. I think if we just speculate on Jr. being the Jr. that he was a couple of years ago, which is very possible because he's not like 38 years old. You know what I'm saying? So if he's that Jr., then everything you said is right on point. I believe that his defense was underrated. People looked at him as an overall player on defense from his years in Denver to New York to but when he got to Cleveland, he became a defender because the expectations was defense because he was playing with LeBron James, and he showed that he could play defense. Sometimes it was like, I mean, not sometimes, for the most part, it was like stellar defense. He played really good defense, and he's gonna bring that same mentality with him to the Lakers. That's not gonna change. So he's
Right.
not an Avery Bradley. He's not a shutdown. He's not a person where you say, "Oh, I'm gonna put Avery Bradley on your best player." I mean, if they're like a shooting guard or a point guard, like if you're playing Portland, he on Dame Lillard. If you're playing Golden State, he on Steph Curry. JR not that person,
Right.
but his offensive talent, I feel, offsets the overall addition in replacing Avery Bradley because he adds so much more to the offensive side, and his defense is good. He's just not shut down. I think that he is an upgrade as well. Um, and another thing I'm not excited about is the fact that they're going to depend on KCP more first. He's been playing decent with the minutes he's been getting. He's actually shooting, I think, 40 something plus percent from the 3 point, like right at 40%, which is not bad. And he's not like he's playing 10 minutes a game. He's probably getting about 20 something minutes at least. I just don't feel great about KCP, but we'll see.
KCP, I mean, when it comes down to him, I mean, he can play some D2, and I mean, he can be streaky offensively too. But I the reason if the playoffs started tomorrow, I wouldn't be excited about J.R. Smith. But we do have 8 games, and it doesn't start to the 31st, and the teams have already started working out together again, which means you basically give him 3 weeks to work out with the team, get familiar. I know he won't get in basketball shape in 3 weeks, but we basically give him 3 weeks plus another 8 games, which is basically another couple of weeks to try to get acclimated with the team. So, I mean, it's like signing a free agent. We basically going to give him a full month to try to get acclimated. That's why I'm more excited about it, because knowing that he has the time. If he was just coming in, we signed him, the playoffs started in a week, and it was going to get rolling, no, I wouldn't be as excited. But knowing he's going to have 3 weeks to play with the team, work out with the team, another 8 games to get kind of familiar with it, because I think they'll kind of work him in. But I think by game 5, 6, 7, and 8, his minutes will just gradually go up. And that's why I'm a little bit more excited about it. And the thing is, we're not looking for him to do a lot of running around. Like you say, Garden, he's going to be a spot-up shooter.
Yeah.
So I think him being in shape, I do think it matters, but it's not as much because I don't think he's going to be expected to do a lot. And I think even if he's playing 15 to 20 minutes, it's going to be in short bursts. He won't
Yeah.
play 10, 15 minutes straight. It'll be 5 to 7 minutes here, 5 to 7 minutes here. So I mean, I think he'll be fine.
Okay. So let's talk J.R. Smith real quick. Do you think he's going to redeem himself? And you know what I'm talking about.
I hope so. The plan, yes, I do. I really do. I think he will redeem himself. I think that kind of put him out the league if you really think about it. I mean, I know he decided to sit. He didn't really want to play for the Cavs. He wanted to get traded. Um, but nobody was really interested. I think after that issue, his career. Just look what happened to his career after that. I think it's a point to come in and try to overall fix that. I mean, you want to be on the NBA team next year? Come out and play your butt off in these playoffs and stuff like this in this shortened little bit of a season we got. You won't have a problem getting signed next year. You come out and you play terrible and you look like trash. I don't think you're able to get back on another team. So I think really it's in his mind to come out and prove something. I think he has something to prove.
Got you. So I agree with you 100%. I think J.R. Smith does have something to prove. J.R. Smith plays with, you can tell he plays harder based on his his expectation of, are we good and do we have a chance? When he was with Denver, he was the man, so he was in charge. Like, he was the leader of the team, and he played like he was the best player on the team. Wouldn't say that he was a great leader, but he was like the best player or one of the best players on the team, and he played like he was young. He was doing his thing. Then when he went to New York, he wasn't really the leader, but he was one of the better pieces on that team when they acquired him. But they were sorry. He knew that.
Right,
He didn't play hard. He didn't. It just wasn't in him. People thought he was done, and as soon as they made that trade to Cleveland, you saw he wasn't done. Kind of
right,
like
right,
Randy Moss when he was with Oakland. Everybody thought he was done. No, that was just a lack of effort because he was on a trash team. Same thing
right.
with J.R. Smith. He's on a trash team. So when he went to Cleveland, you saw him perform. As soon as LeBron left and the team went in the gutters again, he stopped performing.
Yep.
So, and you, of course, like, you don't want that from a player. You want a player to perform at the top level at all points and times, regardless if their team is good or not. But it's clear that he performs at the level of his team. If he recognizes he's on a team that's no good, he don't put forth 100% effort. So he
Right.
gonna put forth 100% effort, because I feel like a lot of people looking at him like he washed because they look at how he played when he was with Cleveland. He wasn't giving no effort. That's why Cleveland got rid of him. They like, we paying you this money for nothing. So I do feel like he gonna redeem himself. He didn't get a chance to redeem himself because LeBron left, and he, with that buffoonery that he pulled in the finals against Golden State that year, he's definitely going to be looking to redeem himself because he knows that that's going to be the story about him for a while unless he pulls it together. So, all right, NFL, NFL, Cam Newton is with the New England Patriots. New England Patriots.
Man.
Man, that is a signing right there. Very unexpected because most people felt like, if he was going to go to the Patriots, and I know you made a prediction that came to pass, but most people felt like if he was going to go to the Patriots, it would happen because why wait this long? Um, but Cam Newton to the Patriots, what you think about that signing, man?
I mean, I like it. I like it for Cam. I like it for the Patriots. I mean, I think it's going to fit everybody all the way around. Now I was looking at an article because he took the league minimum basically to go there, and he was saying, and this year is not about money for me. It's about respect. And so you got a hungry Cam Newton with a chip on his shoulder that's finally healthy out of the last 3 years. He's completely healthy. He's basically set out the last 2 years. So you got him coming back with a chip on his shoulder. We all know he's an MVP caliber player. So I mean that's undeniable. And now you're gonna put him with Bill Belichick with a chip on his shoulder. You remember the last quarterback Bill Belichick had with a chip on his shoulder? TB. We see how that went. So I mean, don't get me wrong, not comparing Cam Newton to Tom Brady, but I mean he has the kind of skills. Actually, I think he's more skillful. So I mean, you give Bill Belichick a Cam Newton with a chip on his shoulder, man. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to be real exciting in New England this year.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting, New England. I'm rooting for Cam to do well. I feel like he was done real bad by the Carolina Panthers. That it should be something against teams for being able to do that. They held that boy on the team knowing that they didn't want him no more and cut him after everybody went through the draft and made the free agent signings. They basically like made it impossible for him to get what he was worth as a quarterback. Um, but and I feel like that's part of the fuel that he's going to be using. You know,
Right.
for him, his fuel is nobody wanted me. I'm gonna show you. But at the same time, I feel like there are several people that probably wanted him. They just couldn't afford him, and it's a risk hiring Cam. And I don't mean a risk because of his injuries. Like, you definitely take that into consideration because you want to know that he's healthy. That's why he's been out the last year and a half or so. You definitely want him to know that he's healthy. But what I say a risk is, like, say for instance, the Bears. That's not a good signing for the Bears as a front office staff because it creates pressure that you don't want. You already signed Nick Foles. Mitch Trubisky is supposed to be your quarterback of the future. You made it an open competition for Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky, right? Well, now you added Cam Newton to the mix. you know, what they really want, they can say whatever they want. What they really want is for Mitch Trubisky to be their future. They want him to overcome and win this job out. That's what they want. Now, if he doesn't, then they got Nick Foles as a failsafe, and then they can look for the quarterback of the future at a later time. But if Cam Newton comes, there's no way Mitch Trubisky is going to be your quarterback of the future. He's going to take that job. So that's just one example. Jacksonville, clearly he's better than Minshew, but they clearly decided that they want to give Minshew the opportunity to be their quarterback of the future, which is why they never gave Nick Foles a job back after paying him all that money. So that's what I mean by risk. It's a risk because it puts pressure on the teams because if they start losing, which they probably will, especially like Jacksonville, they're probably not expected to win many games, but they're looking for Minshew to develop. But the fans are gonna be like, you got Cam Newton sitting on the bench. Won't you put him in the game? Like
Right.
that's not good for business. So, from a business perspective, that's why many teams passed on him. Because if they would have had opportunity to sign him before the draft and right in the meat of free agency, if Carolina would have let him go like they should have, then he would have got picked up by a decent team. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, but anyways, besides that, I mean, Cam Newton he gonna be phenomenal in New England because just
Yeah.
like everybody that goes to New England, the people like they go in and they understand that culture and they go in with that in mind. I think people in other teams a lot of times like superstars they have their mentality about how they want to be as an individual player, but I feel like as soon as you walk through the doors in New England because of Bill Belichick and the coach that he set, you're like, hey, I'm falling in line with what y'all do. And not to say he doesn't represent a good culture. It's just that I think people think about themselves second in New England and think about team first. Like they truly think about team first in New England. And he got something to prove. He represents. I mean, Bill Belichick represents greatness. So yeah, Cam Newton gonna be a dog, bro. Like they're not gonna win the Super Bowl because Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson.
Right.
They're not going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, I don't think that, but I feel like they're gonna be right there at the top like they always do. Second, third seed maybe. Um, Possible NFC championship. I mean AFC championship game, but they ain't gonna make it to the Super Bowl. That's a heck of a signing, man. Heck of a signing.
Hey, check this out. Something I want to throw in about that signing too. I think New England planned to sign him all along. I think they waited, and I think it was a marketing issue. Not issue, but it was a marketing thing. I don't know if you realize, but they got penalized. They got, I think, draft picks taken for Spygate. They signed Cam Newton the day after that came out.
Well, that was on purpose. That's not a yeah. That was
No, that's what
intentional.
I mean. That's
Yeah.
what I mean. Like they did that on purpose. I think they waited to sign him. I think they had every intent on signing him. They just waited until that because if you think about it, nobody's talking about Spygate or even really talked about it. As soon as after it happened, they signed Cam. Everybody was talking about Cam.
Yeah, I agree. That is why they did it. But another reason why they're not talking about Spygate is because it ain't really a big story. New England, they signed Cam during that time to make it even less of a conversation because they knew
Right.
that the bigger story would be Cam, because it probably would have been talked about more like the day that it happened or the day after it happened, just for a day. And then that would have been it. And the reason why is because it's not like the first Spygate. This one was more from what I've heard and what's been explained to me, happening against Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm not gonna go into detail about what happened, but it was perceived to be a honest mistake. But because of their history, they still penalized them because it was like, okay, this was not as big of a deal, but you got a history.
That wasn't
Like
no
you
honest
got to be
mistake.
careful. You got to be careful. No, I mean if you listen to what happened, like that's if you're gonna cheat, you find better ways to do it. Like this here it didn't seem like it was they was truly trying to cheat. I'm gonna be honest with you. It didn't seem like they was truly trying to cheat, in my personal opinion. It wasn't like the first Spygate where they had cameras positioned in places. They were literally trying to film things to get an advantage. This was more about something got caught on camera based off of where they were positioned. I'm not like I said, I'm not gonna go into it, but it might not have been an honest mistake, but the severity of like the for what they did, if it was the first time, they wouldn't even got punished. See, first
Right.
time they did Spygate, the first time they filmed, they got punished because it was major. If this was the first time, it wouldn't even been a penalty. That's what I mean by it, most people perceive it as an honest mistake because it didn't give a true competitive advantage. But regardless, I agree with you 100%. That's exactly why New England waited to sign Cam. Now, I don't know if the intention was to sign Cam all the way from like May to now, and we know we're going to get this penalty, so let's just wait. I don't think that was Cam's intention.
Right.
know,
Right.
Bill Belichick probably, in his mind, he's very calculated. He probably was like, nah, I'm just gonna play the weight game. If he get picked up, then we okay with Jared Stidham. But if we get to this point where he's still there, let's roll the dice and see what happens. Now that I believe for Bill Belichick. But either way, like I said, and I do want to say this. Listen, people who think you know about sports, when you go on Twitter and you go on any of these social media platforms, Facebook, and you're arguing, please know what the hell you're talking about. Tony Jefferson, a guy that I follow on Twitter, he posted about how ridiculous it was that Chase Daniel was making more than Cam Newton and Jameis Winston combined. And a few people started like, going at him, and not important people, not people that's in football or football players, because I think he's a football. Tony Jefferson is a football player. He These were like just fans going at
Right.
him talking about why you're trying to make this a racial thing. They Chase Daniels not making more than Cam Newton and Jameis Winston. He's making 13 million over 3 years, so that's 3 million a year. And Cam Newton signed for 7,000, and Jameis Winston signed for I forgot how much. People, Cam Newton signed for the league minimum with incentives to 7 million that he will not get. He signed for the league minimum that's guaranteed money. Chase Daniel signed for a guaranteed $13 million. Did you hear me? He signed. So he signed for I mean it wasn't 13 million, but he signed for I think it's like $3 million a year that he's going to get just sitting on the bench, and that's good for him. But Tony Jefferson is right. If you combine Cam Newton's 1 year deal, the money he's actually going to pocket that just is just earned to him through the contract, which is I think 700 and something thousand maybe. I forget what
I
the
think
league
it's
minimum is.
550,000 actually.
550,000. You're right. And if you combine Jameis Winston's 1 year deal, they are making less than Chase Daniel per year combined.
They are.
So, people, do your research, okay? Because you sound stupid when you make comments like that. That's just my tidbit for today before we leave. What's your fantasy, man? You got any fantasy news at all?
I mean, not a whole lot. It's not really nothing going on. Golf is still the Rocket Mortgage Classic is still going on with that now. So I mean, my picks are actually seeming to be doing okay. But other than that, there's just not a lot going on right now. So I mean, as far as fantasy, we'll catch back on that next week when stuff starts to get going or they have a new tournament in golf. I'll throw out some new picks.
Cool. fantasy players, get ready. Basketball is upon us. FanDuel already has a competition out. The competition is a $1 million prize, not a $1 million pot. Okay, a $1 million prize. Yeah, you heard me correctly. It is a $1 million prize. It's already up. It's a $4 entry fee, and if you win $1 million. Now, of course, there's a lot of people in that particular competition. I think the competition is, yes, 892,857 spots. So it's like playing the lottery. But this is not the lottery, it's fantasy, and if you know what you're doing, you could end up winning a lot of money. So keep it in mind, be ready for other games to be added, but it's almost time. We'll be giving our fantasy analysis as we get closer to the first couple of games, so make sure that you click follow and make sure that you subscribe on our YouTube channel to get the most up-to-date fantasy information when that time comes. You got anything else, man?
Yeah, man. I just wanted to throw a quick shout out to Maya Moore, with helping with the release of Jonathan Irons. I think she deserved a shout out for that. The stand she took and everything that she did to help him. I just wanted to give her a big shout out. Kudos to you, Maya Moore, for everything you did to help that man be set free. I think you deserve a big round of applause for that.
Yeah, that was some real good stuff. If you hadn't heard that story, please look it up. YouTube, search it on YouTube or search it on Google. Very, very impactful, very inspiring. Yeah, Maya Moore definitely deserves accolades for that. All right, this is Hold This L, and we out. See y'all next
We out, baby. Take it easy.